that's not a car, that's a plane, you know. It may skim above the ground, but the guy was pretty close to just making an air race out of it.
It's an airplane. And it would jump over the other cars.
I love that car because it could take off and pass everybody.
Uh-oh, Penelope's having a little engine trouble.
Oh dear, now what could the matter be?
Penelope Pit Stop, I loved. One of my first crushes.
Oh, I love that. Isn't that nice?
I mean, she's so cute in that southern accent.
Thank you, Colonel.
Ooh-wee! You all can invade my plantation anytime.
I remember Joe coming into my office and saying, I'm in the middle of a meeting. We're going over the wacky races, and we came to a realization that there were no females in the Charlotte Oval. And he said it would help if we got at least one in there. And he said, just put together a car and a girl. She was designed in about 2 hours, I think.
For Penelope Pit Stop, they just called me to a session for the wacky races and said, you're Penelope Pit Stop. Well, Southern gal, you know, she's driving this car, the compact Pussycat. She drove it and she had her own little beauty supply there, you know, and she could put on lipstick while she's driving and she could fix her hair and she'd say, oh dear, you know, something's falling apart here.
I thought it was funny that you could push a button and a huge hair dryer would come out of the trunk, comes down over the car, you know, it dries her off, spoofs her up, and yet the 20 minutes it took her to do that, it doesn't matter, she's still won the race.
Speed limit, 85 miles an hour. Quit dragging your feet, meekly. Charge!
The Army Surplus Special, you've got a tough sergeant and a meek private. So what do you call them? Private Meekly. You know, Sergeant Blast, because he's got a loud, obnoxious voice. And you put them in an army tank, you throw a number 6 on it, it's a race car.
Servicemen gags were always funny. I like to see Sarge, you know, yelling his head off.
Ouch! Away, meekly!
Army Surplus Special I liked a lot. It would like just shoot randomly, you know, like the cannon would shoot and they'd get out of control and they'd re-spin around, stuff like that.
Oh, looks like too much hill for the anthill mob. All right, you guys, everybody out and push.
The Anthill Mob number 7 in their bulletproof bomb, I mean, they were obviously a 1940s Untouchables era car. Gangsters are in the car and they're trying to win a race.
I always liked when their feet came out the bottom and they, you know, I'm sure everybody liked that part, but I thought that was kind of neat. And the fact that they were just always bunched up together and they always ran in a bunch.
Wow! Listen to that motor hum. That's quite a powerful motor you've got there, Lou.
Yep, and it costs only peanuts to run.
The Arkansas Chug-a-Bug, that was pretty cool because you know, the guy driving at the wheel was always asleep and the bear was always freaking out.
Let go of me, you gosh dang blubbering bear!
Love those guys. Love the fact that Blubber was always crying about something and Luke would just sit there going, speed her up, Blubber.
Taking an early lead is that Beau Brummel of the Brake Van Burners, Peter Perfect, in number 9, the Turbo Terrific.
Peter Perfect, you know, his car was always falling apart. Didn't matter what it was, you know. He'd just stop it and it would fall, the wheels would fall off.
He was always trying to rescue Penelope, which was very nice of him.
Having automotive trouble, Pretty Penny?
I'm giving my little old wheels a quick drip-dry wash, because they won't run with that dirty old mud on them.
How feminine.
I always kind of sensed that there was something going on between Penelope and Peter Perfect, because he'd call her Miss Penelope, and then she'd say, oh, why, you're just a little old cutie pie, Peter Perfect.
Way to handsprings, Rufus Roughcut in car number 10 acts his way ahead.
Rufus was, you know, big, burly, Paul Bunyan type, kind of a lunkhead, and Sawtooth was, you know, he was kind of the brains of the organization. And I like the fact that he could drive a, you know, car down the road on 2 giant saws and not cut up everything.
My favorite car that I used to draw all the time was Rufus Roughcut and the Buzzwagon. I don't know why, but I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Nothing can stop us now, Bertie. We're a cinch to win this one. One more exhibition like that, and you'll walk the rest of the way.
Gotta love Dastardly and Muttley. They're just classic. And just left to their own, they were amazingly funny. Dastardly was some wild scheme, and Muttley just sitting off to the side.
thing I remember was always trying to find the most sinister way that was funny in terms of what Dastardly and Muttley would do, and it had more to do not so much with the initial idea of what they were doing, but how they would do it.
Dick Dastardly was always just massacred.
You know going in that the Wile E. Coyote is not going to catch and eat the Roadrunner, just as you know Dick Dastardly, for all his machinations, is not going to win the race. Still, it's fun to see him try. It's fun to see him mislead everybody, to set traps, to have the running relationship with Muttley, because sometimes you get the idea like these two are really not fond of each other, but Muttley is with Dastardly because I think Muttley just enjoys to see Dastardly destroy himself time after time, and gives Muttley something to laugh at.
Muttley! Do something! Anything!
You know, did I ever want to see Dastardly win the race? Yeah, I did. I really just wanted to see him win once, you know? And that's what kept me tuning in as a kid. It's like, maybe Dastardly will win this time.
Dastardly and Muttley always got busted for cheating because they were cheating trying to stop others from winning, whereas the other cars were going into their various modes to help themselves. Whereas Dastardly and Muttley, that's all they did. They were trying to win the race, but the way they did this, they were going to dig a ravine and make all the cars fall into it, or put up an exit sign or a detour sign. The next thing you know, all the Wacky Racer cars are on a merry-go-round in a theme park, you know. They just kept going and minding their own business. They might have won on their own.
With Dastardly and Muttley, Bill and Joe had their first really great recurring villains. They're just a terrific duo.
At the finish line, the crowd is tense with excitement.
Racing is hotter than ever now. NASCAR is becoming huge, and so it only seems natural that there'd be a re-emergence and a re-interest in Wacky Races.
There's always been merchandise for these characters. It would usually come out like about a year after the show would hit, because it would take that long for them to decide if the show was a success or not. But it would usually be like board games, coloring books, comic books, anything in print. Serial premiums, a lot of that.
There was a resurgence in Muttley popularity a few years ago in Japan, of all places, because I think they began importing the show to Japan, so I think the show had the second life over there, and Muttley became amazingly popular.
I think like with each generation of young kids, you know, I think boys and girls love cars. I think that's part of it, but the characters too, you know. I like to design warm, lovable characters. I feel those are the ones that will endure. You know, there's a lot of interesting characters that are done here and there, but they don't seem to endure for decades.
My kids grew up on my cartoons because they were always watching, and I was probably in the kitchen doing the dishes or baking a cake, and they remember everything about all the cartoons that I did.
The Hanna-Barbera cartoons are timeless. Just because something was produced however many years ago, doesn't matter. They still hold up today. For some reason, I think what they do is they take you back to a simpler time when you were a kid and didn't have a care in the world.
I think that the thing that appealed to me most was just the fact that it was just a slapstick cartoon. It was those old gags where, you know, they drive off a cliff, they're suspended in air for 2 seconds, and they drop off and crash.
The attitude of the shows in themselves, if you search deeply into these shows, there is a very relatable human quality in terms of delivering something that they would hope would be entertaining to the public in general, but in a meaningful way.
Double O is yet to reach the finish line. What happened, Dick?
I stopped to give someone my autograph.
Oh, you're kidding. Who would want your autograph?
Him!